Hello everyone. In the previous few sessions, we were discussing about leadership, communication and coordination concepts of the organization. Continuing with the coordination concept, today we will discuss about techniques of coordination, or you can say approaches to coordination. So what are the approaches, or what are the different techniques in an organization one can exercise so as to have the activities coordinated, so as to have the human resource or the employees working under coordination. Okay, to achieve that, it has been listed that there are three coordination mechanisms. First one, you can say employing only basic coordination techniques. So the second one we have is increasing the coordination potential, and the third one we have is reducing the need for coordination. These are the three main techniques used in coordination, or approaches used to coordinate in an organization. The first one is employing only basic coordination techniques. What are these basic coordination techniques? Here we can further have three different types of basic techniques, which includes procedures, rules and policies. The second technique will be planning, and the third technique we can come across is hierarchy. In increasing the coordination potential, we come across number of techniques. First one will be direct contact. Second one, task force. Third one, committees. Fourth is induction. The next one is indoctrination. And let me write it here. This is related to this. Incentives, and we can also write liaison departments, and workflow. Let me write it. So these are the techniques we can use for coordination. According to the first one, employing only basic coordination techniques, where we can have either procedures, rules and policies, or we can have planning technique, or we can have hierarchy. And when it comes to increasing the coordination potential, we can have direct contact, or incentives, task force, committees, induction, liaison department, indoctrination, workflow. These are the different techniques under the increasing the coordination potential, that approach of coordination. And then reducing the need for coordination. Here we can come across two examples, that is matrix organizations and autonomous work teams. So coming to the first one, employing basic coordination techniques. These are the very inherent coordination techniques we can say, because when you build an organization you are going to have procedures, rules and policies. If you inculcate these procedures, rules and policies into your organization and into your employees, definitely the coordination is achieved automatically. And the next one is planning. Planning and controlling are very related things, or planning is directly going to contribute to the controlling as well as coordination. When you plan, you will be having the sequence of steps to be followed for any particular activity, and thereby coordination will be enforced in planning. The next one is hierarchy. If the related or interdependent units are put together in a common administration unit, then the coordination is achieved, because all the related matters will be discussed and decision making will be taken place at the higher level, where you have to follow the hierarchy and coordination with the manager and the subordinates will be achieved. Okay, that is the first technique. When these basic techniques are not viable, or sometimes these may fail, then you have to go for extended technique, which is increasing the coordination potential. In these techniques, the first one, as I have said, it is direct contact. Direct contact means different managers at different levels will be in contact with the employees at different levels, and thereby they are going to guide in any event of issue arising between different departments. So direct contact between different levels, if followed, the coordination can be achieved between different departments and the hierarchy whatever we have designed. The next one we have is task force. Task force is you can say it is a temporary committee, or it is a group of representative it is a group of representatives where the group is actually having representatives of the departments which are facing the coordination issues. So you make a task force and you solve the issue. After issue is solved, this task force will be dissolved, or the representatives are now back to the normal work. If at all some issue is there which is causing problems in the coordination and it persists for long, then this task force or a group of representatives becomes committees. Permanent task force is committees, you can say. Okay, this is also a means of having coordination in the organization. And when it comes to induction, here you are going to induct a new employee to the organization, or you can say a new team, so that he will coordinate with the other people who are there in the team already, and thereby whenever you go for a new employee, or whenever you shuffle the employees, you are going to achieve a coordination, because the people who are there in the team, they try to understand each other. That's why induction of a new employee into the new social setting of his work will be helpful in achieving the coordination. The next one is indoctrination. Indoctrination means what? Indoctrination is something you are making your employees to believe. You are indoctrinating with goals and mission of the organization into the minds of your employees. So thereby what you are going to achieve, they will be motivated highly towards the goals and mission of the organization, and thereby they are going to have a coordination among them so as to achieve these goals and mission. And next one we have is workflow. Workflow is the sequence of steps through which an organization gets the input, transforms it into outputs, and then exports it as a results or end results. So if this workflow is set, and thereby you are going to have a targets for your every employee or the departments, they have to reach the targets, so the workflow will help in coordination. Next, incentives. Incentives is in the organization, if you want the coordination between two different departments, means you have to indicate that there will be a profit sharing if the coordination goes well and the production of some units desired from the production as well as sales departments is achieved. Then they have to coordinate because they are going to get incentives. Okay, so sales and production departments are given target as well as they have been advised to complete it with a good coordination so that they can get the incentives. And the another mechanism is liaison departments. Sometimes in two departments there will be a issue that lot of communication will be happening or lot of exchange of information and the research work will be going on, or contact between two departments will be very high compared to any other departments. Then there should be a need of liaison department which is set, and the coordination between the departments where is a large load of contact is there. Okay, so that's about the liaison department. So these are the different mechanisms we can have in achieving the coordination. Okay, and this contributes to increasing the coordination potential of an organization. When it comes to reducing the need for coordination, this is a very important concept or approach where it is used in the modern day organizations, where the basic approach is what we can see is matrix organizations, where multiple bosses control a single subordinate. Multiple bosses will be controlling the single subordinate, and that will help in coordinating some of the organizational activities. And when it comes to autonomous work teams, here the responsibility as well as the authority for every subordinate will be there, and the manager also having some of the controls given to the subordinates, and thereby they will be able to self manage and coordinate the activities. That's why these will be helpful in reducing the need for coordination. So these are the approaches what we can go through for the achieving coordination. Okay, so till now whatever we have discussed, that is the leadership, communication and coordination, these concepts come under direction of the organization, the direction function of the organization. The next function, which is the final function of the management or manager, is controlling. As you know, we have in management different functions like planning, organizing, then staffing, and then directing. After that we come across controlling. So in the controlling, what we are going to do, we are going to have set standards and compare the current work performance against the set standards, and we arrive at conclusion whether we have to modify the standards, or we have to modify our plan, or we have to change or apply some corrections into the procedures which have been carried out so as to go with the plan. Okay, that is what we are going to do in the control. Let me read the formal definition as given by E.F.L. Bruch, and then we will move on to the next concepts. Okay, so as per the E.F.L. Bruch, control is checking current performance against predetermined standards, contained in the plans with a view to ensure adequate progress and satisfactory performance. So control is what? It is checking current performance of the organization. Based on what? Based on predetermined standards contained in the plans. As per the plans, whatever standards we have set, against that you are going to compare the present performance. And what is the need for it? Need for it is a view to ensure the adequate progress and satisfactory performance. So that is what the meaning of control function. So what are the need or the purposes of this control? That we are going to see. The first purpose we have is measuring the progress. It is useful in measuring the progress. Planning and control functions are related to one another, because whatever we plan, that has to be implemented. When it is implemented, the results of that plan will be only accessed if we have a control mechanism. That's why measuring the progress is an important function of controlling. And then we have uncovering the deviations. What are the deviations? When an organization is set into motion, when some activities are implemented in an organization, there will be number of factors which will be pulling the targets. Because of that, our organization will not be able to do better as expected, or the performance might be degrading. What are these deviations, or what are the factors which are affecting the organization needs to be known, and that will be known only through control. What are the deviations we can get using control are: change, complexity, delegation, mistakes. These are the factors which might be causing deviations, and we can get to know about these factors only if we have control. That's why this is very much required in any management or management of organization. So what are the mistakes? Mistakes might be human errors or machine errors. Change, it is integral part of any organization. So whenever the surrounding conditions changes, or environmental condition changes, or the market changes, you have to adapt for that, and the control system will be continuously monitoring all these things. When it comes to complexity, nowadays the large organizations will have a complex organizational structure. There needs to have a control on each and every activity of the organization. And then delegation. Delegation means already you know that the top level manager delegates the work and authority to the subordinates, and then subordinates delegate their work to the lower level employees, and thereby there might be deviation in the works which have been carried out and which have been indicated. That's why we need to have a control over the delegation as well. So these different factors will be uncovered in the control system. That's why control system is needed. And when it comes to indicating the corrective action, once you have measured the progress and you have understood what are the reasons for deviations, you have to correct the you have to take the corrective actions. And how you will take the corrective actions? You will take the corrective actions based on the situation and condition, and you are going to implement those corrective actions, or you are going to indicate it to the lower levels where implementation will takes place, and that is called as transmitting corrective action to the operation. This is very important because you might be knowing the reasons for deviations in the performance. You have to indicate those to the lowest level or wherever it is required, and thereby you can increase your performance and meet the standards which are determined already. Okay, that's all about the need for control system. Next we will understand what are the benefits of having a control system in an organization. Okay, when it comes to the benefits of control, these are the benefits we are going to have with the control system. If a well defined or well developed control system is there, these are the benefits we can say. The first one is control system increases the productivity, because in control system we measure the performance. If there are deviations, we apply the corrections, and thereby it increases the productivity. And the second one, it reduces defects and mistakes. Since as I have explained earlier also, deviations are measured and corrected, and thereby we are going to reduce the defects and mistakes. It helps meet deadlines. So here once we are into the process and we are correcting the process on time, meeting of the deadlines will be very easy. That's why it helps in meeting the deadlines. And fourth one, facilitates communication. As you know, in control, it is not only the equipment control or the process control, it involves controlling of the activities, the controlling of different subordinates or the managers at different levels, and thereby control will facilitate the communication, and it improves safety, because if some deviations in an equipment are arising and you can detect using the control mechanism you have set up, that will help improving the safety of the equipment as well as the worker who is working on that particular equipment or machinery. Okay. So the next one we have is lowers the cost. Since we can able to detect the faults or errors in the very first stage of any deviation, it lowers the cost of production. It lowers the cost of organizing the things, or lowers the cost of managing different people and different departments. And next one, gives the workers control over their environment. This is also important. Since control mechanism is adopted in the organization, it will help the workers to control over their environment. It might be subordinates who have been controlled by a manager, or it might be machineries, or it might be a set of salesmen controlled by a supervisor or marketing head. So that working environment control will be there with the workers who are there at the particular level. So that's all about the benefits of control. I hope you have understood why this control is required. Okay. Now we'll move on to the next concept, which is the essentials of effective control. So what are the important things control has to include, or the control system has to include, so that the control system will be effective in an organization. Okay. Essentials of effective control. The first essential thing is the control system should be suitable. It should be suitable. Second one, it should be timely and forward looking. The third one is the control should be objective and comprehensible. Fourth one, it it has to be flexible, the control should be economical, it should be prescriptive, and operational. Seventh one is the control should be acceptable to organization members. And the eighth one we have is reveal exceptions at strategic points. The control system should motivate people to performance, and controls should not lead to less attention to other aspects. Should be periodically reviewed and evaluated. So these are the essentials of effective control. Coming to the first one, which is control should be suitable. It should be appropriate for the nature and needs of the activity being carried out. It depends on the activity which you are doing, and the control is exercised based on the nature of the activity. Okay, and for example, we can take sales and finance, these departments. Here the control applied for the sales departments will be different, and controls applied for the finance department will be different. Same is true with human resource department. The controls applied over there are different, and when it comes to production, the controls applied on the machinery is different, and on the different subordinates or supervisors working over there is different. So it should be suitable for particular environment or nature of the activity. Second one is timely and forward looking. Timely means it has to observe the deviations as soon as possible, or on time. In ideal cases, if you consider any electronic machinery or electronic control system, before the deviations occur, there will be an alert regarding the deviations, okay, which is not possible in management. That's why there is a lag between occurrence of the deviation and conformity or information about the deviation one receives. That lag we need to reduce, and if we able to reduce using our control in the management, we can say the control is timely and forward looking. Forward looking we can describe in another way also. Here the forward looking means the futuristic deviations which can occur can also be detected using the control system. We have to design the control system such that it should detect the deviations in different areas in advance. Okay, in that way we have to design. That is what forward looking control system, and combined together it is timely and forward looking. Okay, that is the second essential of effective control. Next one is objective and comprehensible. Here objective means the expected results should be defined clearly and in terms of the definite terms. Okay, it should be clearly defined and in definite terms, and that has to be understood easily by all the workers or stakeholders. You have to define the expected results or specify the expected results in a precise way, and it has to be understood by all the stakeholders. Okay, that is the next essential. And the fourth one is flexible. Flexibility means you have to adjust for changing situations. So your control should be adjustable, whether it is a machinery control or automatic control or it is a manual control. It should be able to adjust for the situations arising in an organization. Next one is economical. The control you are going to exercise, it should be economical in the sense you should not spend 99% of your money on the control and only 1% of profit out of it. It is not economical, correct? So you have to spend minimum expenses or minimum amount of human resource or any other resource and have to get the maximum profit or benefit out of it. Okay, it should be designed like that. Next is the control should be prescriptive and operational. Prescriptive means the control is not only going to measure, it also need to detect the deviation and it has to recommend the solutions for the causes. Recommend the solutions for the causes of deviation. So that should be the work of control system. Then if it is following that particular sequence, that is measuring, detecting the deviation and cause and the solution for those deviations, then it can be said as prescriptive and operational. Operational means it can be implementable or it can be implemented. We can have a solution for the issue which has arrived. Okay, so it should be in that manner. Next one is the control should be acceptable to organizational members. So this is also very important because the controls will be having set standards and these standards should be available and acceptable for all the stakeholders because they are the one who are going to implement it, and therefore it is very important that it should be acceptable for the organization members. The next one, reveals exceptions at strategic points. So here one very important concept needs to be considered is short or small deviations are important in some areas. Always, most of the time, the control systems are designed such that large variations can be observed easily and thereby you apply the corrections. Okay, but in some area or some fields, short deviations are more important. than the large deviations from the standard. Why? Because consider an example, 5% of deviations in the expenses of a labor at work is more problematic than the 20% expenses deviation when purchasing a postal stamps in an organization. Correct? Postal stamps are very less cost. Okay, they are having a less cost. And when it comes to labor cost, if it is 5% means it might be thousands together. This is acceptable, this is large deviation, but it is acceptable. But this 5%, though it looks a small deviation, but it accounts for a large money, correct? That's why the control system should reveal the exceptions at strategic point. What is the strategic point? Strategic point here is the percentage of variation in the expenses which have been set. Okay, and the next one we have is it should motivate people to the performance. So you should not set too tough standards. In control, the first step is to set the standards, but it should not seem like it is tough standards, so we are not going to achieve. In that way, the employee should not think. So the standard should be set such that it should be motivating or motivative to the employee or people's performance. Okay. And the next one we have is it should not lead to less attention to other aspects. So if you are concentrating more on controlling the production line and you are not concentrating on sales, or you are not concentrating on the product development, it will be again a failure of control, you can say. That's why it should not lead to less attention on other aspects of the organization. And the last one is it should be periodically reviewed and evaluated. The control mechanism you have adopted for different departments or different aspects of the organization, it has to be reviewed and evaluated periodically, because the every nature of this organization is it will be changing continuously because of the surrounding environment or geopolitical conditions or the market strategies. Everything will be changing, and so as to adapt for the change, you have to periodically review and evaluate your control. Okay, so these are the essentials for effective control. These are the things you need to consider when you want to design a control mechanism in an organization. Okay, that's all about the essentials of effective controls. The next topic we have is control process. Steps in a control process. So there are 3 steps in the control process. First one is establishing standards. Second one is measuring and comparing against the standards set or established. Third step is taking corrective action. So these are the 3 steps involved in control process. First one is establishing the standards. Here we are going to have the standards set. How we are going to set the standards? The standards are set based on some key parameters. Not all the parameters are going to be observed. There are number of parameters in an process, so we are not going to observe all the parameters. Instead, some key parameters are set by every organization, and they, that are measured against the standards in the later stage. That's why the key parameters need to be considered when you are going to set the standards. What are these key parameters? Some of the basic parameters are profitability, quality, productivity, employee attitudes, public responsibility, etc. So, based on these kind of key parameters, organizations are going to set the standards. Okay. Once the standards are set, now the organization is into the motion. At that moment, you have to measure the parameters and compare the results against the standards set. So, this comparison can be continuous or it can be at the end of throughput. So, the measurement and comparison can be done continuously, that is periodically or frequently after some interval, or it can be done at the end of the throughput. It depends on the nature of activity or the nature of different process. Okay. Based on that, we are going to measure some quantity and compare it against the standard and going to have a conclusion whether the performance is having some deviation or not. Okay. If there is a deviation from the standard, then we are going for the next step, which is taking corrective action. Here the corrective action should be taken by the manager or superior, whoever responsible for the particular job. Okay. He has to take the corrective action and it should be timely. Timely in the sense it has to be taken as soon as possible, so the normal system can be restored easily. Okay. And it will not going to adversely affect the system in that way. Okay. So, these are the steps one has to follow in an control process. Okay. So, that is all about the control function of the management. With this module 2 is completed. In this module we have discussed about the organizing, staffing, directing and control functions of the management. In the next module we will try to understand the entrepreneurship development. Okay. Thank you.